Of.
It's a little overplayed already, but I do enjoy it. I appreciate you knowing it, Emac.
It's well, we had been talking about it pre-show how it was kind of annoying, but it's catchy, and I mean the lyrics are pretty basic and what have you. But there we are. So anyway, we are live now. This is your show. This is the Chris Spags live before lock. He is the home run leader. I am but the bridesmaid at this point. So much for being a front runner, but we've got a hefty, potentially 8-game slate. I'm treating it as a 7 because I don't trust the Cincinnati weather. But let's jump on in here, Chris. We have a 7-10 lock tonight for everybody playing along at home.
Yep, so it'll be a busy slate here. We got 8 games. We have some weather issues that we're watching. We have a lot of things. We have a Rockies lineup we're in desperately need of. But hey, we're here for you guys as always. As Emac mentioned, I'm Chris Spags, and welcome aboard here. And of course, if you're new to the program, if you're new to the Osmo world, the best thing you do is get yourself an Osmo Plus membership and use that promo code live before lock. Get half off your first month or week of any Osmo Plus membership. Get all the ownership projections, all the rankings, and there's that Rockies lineup. All right, now. All right, Trevor Story's in. All right, we're having a good day, guys. So let's.
Damn it! I planned for him out on my all-day lineup. So
we had opposite takes there. No, I have a ton of Story, and I'm now happy I don't have to adjust all that. But you can be happy that you don't have to adjust your lineups because you get all the projections. Plug them right in a Fantasy Cruncher. A second they update with this new Trevor Story news that came out. So go ahead, use that promo code live before lock. Emac, how are you doing? I feel like we haven't had each other for a few weeks.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks, so things are going well here. Had a good night last night. Mucked up my export, only ended up with about 20 or 25% of the Coors Field game, which I had been playing closer to 60 and 70% when they were their last homestand, and I got everything screwed up. I had an error in my file, so I just had to go with what I had. Still had a great night. Ended up with Renfroe in the right lineups. Which was helpful. I did those tiers pick 'em on DK where you have 6 players. I had 8 home runs. I had JD Martinez with 2, Renfroe with 3, and then there was only one person didn't have a home run. Whoever I had as my number 1 tier option, they missed the parade. But yeah, there was some pinball scoring for sure.
Yeah, and that is the season as the weather warms up. I mean, I think in general for MLB DFS, as you're getting that temperature start to rise across the country, I mean, obviously Coors is not exactly needing that quite as much. But in general, the hitting is going to carry you through on the day. I think my best lineup had Tyler Mahle in it, which frustrated me to no end because I had so little Tyler Mahle. But I also had JD. I had, wasn't Mookie. Who was the other outfielder? Oh, Jackie Bradley. I also had enough of the Rockies and Machado. So I was feeling good about myself. But then Tyler Mahle there just holding me back. But yeah, hell of a day. And I would say in general, the rule of thumb is going to be pay up for hitting now because make that hitting count because hitting can blow up in various ways and for the better for once.
Yeah. And that one was, I mean, good God, the Rockies had a 6-run lead in the 8th and they ended up losing an extra inning. So that's extra, 3 innings. And what did they come across with? Like from the top of the 9th on, they scored almost half the runs of the game. So we lucked into that. That was not, I saw a lot of people taking victory laps, and it's like, guys, that was lucky because that should have been a gimme, and somehow the pod squad came through. So enjoy it. It's not always going to happen that way, and there was all sorts of people getting a little salty with each other when it was 2-1 in the 5th or whatever that was. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a little bit of luck, but that's what happens when you pay for the premium hitting. You just get extra innings. That's what you're paying for, right? That's how it goes. Absolutely. You pay the bonus.
All right, I'll let you take over 1 sec here, and then I will step back. I'm dropping the link in chat for the for Yahoo. It's the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article, but in the 3rd paragraph, you get the instructions and the link on how to get to Yahoo. Use the promo code OSMO and get $30 matched in Yahoo Sports Rewards points with your initial DFS deposit. That is, those are available for immediate use, and they're just as good as cash. And then the other thing I wanted to point out there, I got 13th last night in the management fee free contest. So that was kind of fun. Ended up with Hunter Renfroe. And it turned out to be essentially the lineup that Josh and I built on air. We built 4 or 5, but this was one of them. And because Franmil Reyes wasn't in the lineup, he was the same price as Machado or as Renfroe. So I swapped out Franmil Reyes for Renfroe, and what do you know? Lucked into 50 points. So good times there.
Yeah, once Renfroe was in, I was like, I got to get this guy in some lineups. I didn't realize he'd be 5% owned, but that is one of the things I feel like Eddie mentions a lot on the NBA streams. But the edge that you have is these late minute adjustments here, guys coming in, a guy like Reyes going in or going out rather of the lineup, and Renfroe coming in. I had Reyes. I made sure I replaced my Reyes with Renfroe, and you got to do that. You got to keep your eyes peeled for that sort of thing. But let's go game by game, Max, since there is no what story news? Story is in the lineup. That is the good news. That he's available. That was the news that I was referring. LL Cool Jeff in the premium Slack. But we have no deeper dive today, so let's go game by game. Mac, we'll hit the top game up front. I know you had some takes on it already. Texas going into Cincinnati. Texas getting 4.1 implied runs. Cincinnati getting 4.4. I got a little bit of Cincinnati. I also got a lot of Tanner Roark with our projections at Osmo.com, which quite frankly I muted because I didn't want Tyler Mahle yesterday. Our projections offered him up. And that's what happens. There's a good strikeout matchup. I get why that'll occur. But if you would see something with your eye and it doesn't quite match what the projections are giving you, you got to walk that back yourself. So I walked back Tanner Roark. I'm going to be under the field on him. What are you doing with this game and who are you getting?
I was giving strong consideration to just locking it out of my player pool. We're getting, so I'm not a weatherman, but I can go look at weather in motion on weather.com and make some guesses there. Now, the question is, what sort of risk tolerance do we want? There's kind of storms throughout the whole night. So it's not like there's about maybe a 90-minute break or so, it looks like, but we need more than 90 minutes to get the game in. So if they decide to start and play through a little bit of any general precipitation in the area, they're going to be fine. However, if they do a late start, get that window, there's more storms coming in around 10 o'clock. So that's not helpful either. Now, on the other hand, this is Texas at Cincinnati. These teams don't meet again this year. So this is the only series they have. So they would have to do a doubleheader, but they still have tomorrow for a doubleheader. So those are the variables that are in play. If this was a game, if this was like Chicago and Cincy or, Milwaukee and Cincy, one of their other division rivals, I suspect they may call it a little quicker just because those teams still have multiple series against each other, as well as, in the second half, they're coming to each other's cities as well. So that's one of the things that you want to think about. But when you get this interleague game, they don't do a home and home. Almost generally, they don't do a home and home for these interleague between leagues. You have your regional rivals, because the Mariners and the Padres hate each other, but they seem to be designated regional rivals that in various incarnations they've had 2-2s. But just double check that, because that's one that they don't usually like making up the game at the other city's home park. So
got it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you on this game in general, where I want to be under it anyway. And weather aside, actually, I guess while we're talking weather, Emac, are there any games weather-wise that you're particularly worried about, or you're maybe muting your ownership on?
It was only that one. The Minnesota one looks like it'll be all right. And then I guess Detroit was the other one, but that just started. So that one looked like it was going to be okay as well when we got a little closer here. But I have not looked at the weather in motion in about 20 minutes, but was still concerned. I'll probably pull that up in about 30 minutes. Well, I'll pull that up about 30 minutes before lock when I start doing crunches, just because if it looks like we're going to get a break, Yasiel Puig, 3,500 there on DraftKings. How can you avoid that? Yeah, he's better against righties, but he's not exactly horrible against lefties. Mike Minor, somewhat of an intriguing contrarian type option here. What's contrarian tonight? I don't really know, because do you want to land with any of these pitchers wholeheartedly? Probably not, but he's definitely someone that should be in the mix. If this was going to play, if this was completely clean, he would probably be about my fourth owned pitcher. I don't know where I'm going to end up with him tonight. I may cross the pitchers out. On the other side, I don't want any part of Tanner Roark. Not the worst matchup for him, because Texas they've got the pitcher instead of the DH, but Roark's had increased fly balls, increased hard hit rate, and he's decreased strikeout rate. Now, he's someone that was always a fine, I didn't mind him when he was on the Nationals pitcher. He's, serviceable 3.5 guy. He was not quite a number 3 guy. On his good days he was, but he was better than a number 4 starter. Okay, that's fine, perfectly acceptable. He'd be in every rotation in the league. It's just that now in this smaller park, with some of the Texas power and his propensity to give up more fly balls than what he has in the past, that just gives me concern. And there's other guys I'd rather roll the dice with.
So I'm not sure what number you're setting with the strikeouts. I actually see his strikeouts being up. Like, that's the one thing I think he's due for negative regression is really my issue, because he's gotten, for my numbers at least, I've got him at 9.2 Ks per 9 and 293 at bats. Going back to last year, he's got 7.8 Ks per 9. And the home run rate has been down to 1.7% this year from 2.8%. So he's been under league average going back to last year. But I think the hard contact numbers, like you mentioned, the fly ball rate, the amount of hits he's getting up, the amount of bats that he's not missing, it seems like the strikeouts should drop, but they have been there for him on the year. It just seems like a bit of an aberration to me.
So what happens with him, and this is just having watched him so many times with the Nationals, under his belt, he does have a 15 strikeout game. Leading into that, it took him 3 games to get 12 strikeouts. So they kind of will sort of come in bunches, if you will, but I think he's closer to, a 0.7 per 9 guy, or pardon me, 7 to 7.5 per 9. Maybe 0.7 per inning at this point. So that's sort of where I'm coming on that one. And frankly, if it was playing clean, he'd be in my pitcher mix. The added risk, and I'm not really enthralled with him, tends to be keeping me away. So I lied. I clicked on weather in motion now. So it looks like storms are going to be developing over the stadium around first pitch, and then they go away a little bit for about an hour and a half, and then they come in. The rain comes in again at night. So, but that we're looking at radar. Radar just they show flocks of ladybugs over California. If you are looking at it, right, you can attest to that, Chris. So we're guessing at what it is here. It's hard to tell. Maybe if anybody's got boots on the ground there in Cincy and wants to give us a local forecast, that would alleviate some of my fears. But I've got other places to go here, so I'm not as worried.
Yep. So I think we covered that one enough. Let's go on to the next game on the slate. We have the Yankees going into Chicago. Another game with some rain issues overall, perhaps, but we don't currently have a risk of postponement, but it doesn't seem great right now based on the sites that I check. The Yankees with a 5.3 implied run total, the White Sox with a 4.2 implied run total. The Yankees going with a bit of a bullpen day, sort of, or at least an opener day, going with Chad Green, who should be leading into Nestor Cortez. And for the White Sox going against the Yankees is going to be Ronaldo Lopez, who a guy who I'd like to target against. The weather kind of spooked me off here a little bit earlier in the day, and I didn't land there naturally with our projections. So I don't have as much Yankees as I would like, despite a pretty good spot here going against Lopez in a positive home run hitting park in the Yankees versus right-handers. This particular lineup has a really strong numbers overall, a 115 WRC plus versus righties. And the White Sox, too, honestly, I don't mind. I think both Cortez and Green do grade out poorly. The Yankees bullpen as a whole isn't bad, but those two guys, I don't see much to love for either of them. So I do have a little bit of White Sox, not enough Yankees. And I do have a little bit of Nestor Cortez as well as a pitcher just because of the price. And I don't know, the White Sox strike out a lot. So I'll throw a few dice with that. But what are you doing with this game, Emac?
So Adam and I talked about Nestor Cortez a little bit on the DFS strategy show. And he's someone I'm actually interested in. He will probably throw about the equivalent of 3 innings. I'm guessing he'll get 60-ish pitches. And he is, if memory serves, he's 4,000. So that one sort of intrigues me. Now, you got to figure out how many innings are you buying for that 4,000, and what does it do for you? Now, he's 25 on Yahoo. I do have him in one of my lineups on the all-day slate that I was playing. I'll probably have him maybe on one of my 10 in that management free contest. But I will be playing him on DK just for the salary alleviation. And I really want to try to get in Story, Arenado, and all those guys there for Colorado, which I know a lot of people are going to be going to them, but I do like on DraftKings that they're all 5,300 or higher, which makes more of a decision point here. And what are we going to do with pitching? Because the feel-good option is probably Syndergaard, I would guess, maybe Walker Buehler, and then we're talking Odorizzi, who's earned his price point, absolutely, but that just doesn't feel great paying 5 figures for him. So it'll be interesting to see where the projections congregate here now that we've got all the starting lineups in.
Yep, I am with you on most of those takes there. Yeah, Cortez, I think it's a little bit interesting just because, again, the White Sox are bad versus lefties. This particular lineup they have today strikes out 26% of the time versus left-handed pitching. So that's enough for Cortez to potentially do something as a value play. So that would be the hope I would go to there. But I also don't mind the White Sox because they do have a good amount of power. You have a decent home run hitting situation overall. And the Yankees, too, I think on paper, they should have some home run opportunity here. The ownership not crazily high there. They do have a better chance of being a top stack today than they do their ownership based on the numbers we have at Osmo.com with the top stacks tool. So, I don't mind the Yankees didn't get there enough. And they could be sneaky because I think the weather may have spooked people off because that weather has been in red for most of the day on most of the sites that track such things.
Yeah, completely agree.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I completely agree with that. I was just getting a shell lineup in here that I could live with on Yahoo since I think I'm going to be running a train probably. So there we go.
It's the weekend. It's time to run a train if ever you're going to do it.
Yeah, that's $30. It's closer to 300 on DK. So those are going to be the lineups I'm focusing on. So triaging, and we have 3 games going off exactly at 7:10. So that makes things a little tricky. Because normally in a situation like this, I would have no problem pushing it to the later games. We just don't quite have as many tonight. There's just 5 that go after that 7:10 start. So things are limited, and there's no screaming discounts there. But I think I actually have everybody in my lineup except for Nicky Lopez at this point, and I needed $7 for second baseman. Everybody else is in the later game, so I can probably just circle back on that one. I'll miss out on some of these pitchers here, but that's okay.
So nobody's really disappointed me quite as much as Nicky Lopez. And we're going to move on to this game next, but he's so cheap and he just doesn't do anything. He has a 16 WRC plus so far versus right-handed pitching, and he's a lefty. That doesn't seem right. That's bad effort by Nicky Lopez.
He's been hanging out with Billy Hamilton and getting hitting tips from him. It's clear
that is true. Happening. Yeah, they're just together, not hitting home runs, just lightly slapping at the balls as though it's a sorority pillow fight every time.
Wait, sorority pillow fight. Let me think about that for a second.
No, those girls can hit hard. I don't want to begrudge them. They're definitely actually hitting softer than a sorority pillow fight. Let's talk about the game, though. We got Kansas City with a 3.4 implied run total. Minnesota on the other side, the 5.6 implied run total. Minnesota also jumping out a bit on the top stacks tool. A lot more potential for them to be a top stack today than their ownership. They're not very highly owned. The prices probably aren't putting people there, but a matchup with Glenn Sparkman is going to be positive, even though the Minnesota Park not been great for hitting so far this year. And the weather there, I think, not necessarily great hitting weather as well. I honestly have a little bit of Sparkman. I have a little bit of Minnesota, and not much on the Kansas City side besides a few stragglers. What about you, Emac, in this game?
So back to the price per pitch. If we look at Sparkman, he'll probably go 80-85 would be my guess. Now, they're going to be pitches without a lot of strikeouts behind them. It is a tough matchup, and I actually chose Minnesota as one of my teams to highlight here on the main slate as a stack. So I'm kind of going to be playing both sides of this one, but it's looking at going with Sparkman. And if you roll out with him, you look at Nestor Cortez, you look at somebody else like that, you can get all the bats. So then you're like, all right, could I get 20 points from my pitching? And then I need multiple home runs from at least 2 guys, or I need 6 total home runs to be in contention for tournaments. So that's sort of how I'm mathing that out. I think I read someone, and I wish I would have remembered their name, but so I'm citing them from the YouTube chat on the earlier show, but they said there was like 55 home runs hit yesterday.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing, all in all. We'll see what we get tonight. Less games, of course, than the 15 we had last night. But here's my thoughts on Minnesota. Basically, I said, and somebody had been saying in chat, somebody, WWSVD, I believe, had mentioned that Minnesota doesn't really do well at home. Okay, 1, not true. And 2, we talked about Brad Keller. Brad Keller doesn't allow power. Brad Keller I don't think he gave up a home run last night, but he had 11 in his 226 career innings going into last night's game. Brad Keller just absorbs it. So there's ground balls. He allows base runners, but he doesn't allow doubles and home runs very often, and that is what you need to get RBI. So he can absorb the punishment. He's gonna, he's like a young right-handed version of Jamie Moyer, basically. Just goes out there, nothing great, but
a lot of longevity there, though. That's good for him.
Pitching forever. So no knock on him, but Sparkman's not as good as he is. So looking at Minnesota, I haven't looked at the lineup, but I'm assuming that Cruz is in tonight. He got Friday night off. Yep, there he is batting third. So there's hardly any weak links in this Minnesota offense, which is great. But I would look towards Kepler, Polanco, Cruz, Rosario, Garver, and you're paying through the nose for Garver. So right there, if you go there, you're going to be incredibly contrarian. You're going to be opposite of all of the Coors Field action, and you're going to have a wildly unique lineup. But you're going to need some discounted pitching to get there. So obviously we wouldn't take Sparkman, but maybe we roll the dice with Michael Wacha. Maybe you consider Reynaldo Lopez just and hope Lightning is captured by one of them and they get to 12 points. Reynaldo Lopez, sorry, I didn't mention him when we talked about the Yankees. He does have 25 fantasy point upside. He also can go negative. There's a wide range of outcomes. He will go negative more often than he will exceed 25 fantasy points. But if you go look at his game logs, he does have a couple magnificent games. And then you just look at the track record, you're like, yikes. He's like a home run hitter. You get it or you don't with him. But with the Twins, it's 69 degrees there, Chris.
Oh, very nice.
Yep. So pleasant, as they say. But I would be okay going with those twins. Now I don't hate CJ Crone for some differentiation. Jonathan Scope, if you want to do a wraparound stack there, that would be a way to do it. But I really don't think you're going to have to differentiate that much with Minnesota, because so many people are going to be looking at those price tags and saying, was there a million runs scored last night in Colorado? I'm going to Colorado again. So that's where I am with those guys. I really don't want to target anybody against Jake Odorizzi. I would consider Odorizzi as a pitcher, but I'll just let the optimizer roll in some of these high-end guys. I'm not going to be picky. I'm guessing I'll probably set them all close to 20%, and I'm trying to get Coors and Minnesota and Padres hitters where I can. And the Oakland Athletics. There's your not sneaky, but cheap stack.
Yeah, Oakland is, yeah, I like Oakland too. We'll talk about them. But yeah, Odorizzi, I'd like to circle back on him just real fast. I think the thing for me with Odorizzi and not wanting to pay his price in particular, he's actually been really good on the year. 0.97 whip, getting strikeouts at a almost 10 strikeout per 9 rate, limiting home runs well also with 1.5% home run rate on the year. But the Royals just striking out a little bit under league average, 22.2% in their lineup. Regularly versus right-handed pitching, they're right at league average at 22.9%. So it's not a spot where I'd want to target Odorizzi personally. And on the Minnesota side, so Sean V and I have both had a similar opinion about Minnesota. Park factors for Minnesota have been really bad on the year. 0.75 runs for every 1 run elsewhere. 0.69, again, a nice number for the temperature, perhaps. Not so nice when that's your home run number for every 1 in the other league, the other parks around the league. So not a spot for me where I'm dying to get to Minnesota today. I do think, though, they have some potential death by 1,000 cuts. Like, I'd be more inclined to full stack Minnesota than I would be to take a guy and hope he hits a home run. I don't think the home runs are going to be there versus Sparkman in this park, which is limiting home runs well. So I would go full stack, 3-man stacks. I think you can have that potential there. But
the one thing I do want to call out on that, Chris, is those, and your numbers are absolutely correct, but remember how cold it was for April. We had several games that were below 40 degrees in their first 2 homestands. So that it may mute things a little bit. So when looking at that, as we get warmer weather, just know that that's really going to have a counter effect. Now, it's going to be 69 today, so that's not really the warmer weather, but we will have stretches where ideally the Twins will be at home. Well, it'll be 85 to 90 in those in a July or August summer swelter that they end up with there in Minnesota. So just keep that in mind when looking at the full season numbers. But you're absolutely correct. When you look at their context, it's like, how are they doing this? But then you start looking at weighted runs created plus and all this other stuff, and you're like, yeah, they're one of the best offenses. We didn't expect it, but there they are. And who knew they could do it without Brian Dozier and Miguel Sano and a few other people.
Yeah, once that Minnesota weather, I think, is above 80, I'll feel a little more comfortable going back there. But I've been avoiding the Twins at home for that reason, at least. And I agree. Like, I love the Twins. Like, you're right. On paper, they are the best hitting team in the league versus both left-handed pitching and right-handed pitching, generating a good amount of power, creating runs, getting a good batting average, which is something that Osimo has said in a couple of videos and been trying to look at more, even though we initially weren't crazy about it. It has been one that he found to be valuable. So that is a stat which I think can be helpful in just determining everything. And overall, just their numbers on paper across the board look strong. But yeah, at home, I've just been avoiding them. And I think while it's still a little bit, it's not cold at this point, but Sparkman also limiting home runs pretty well, a 2.5% home run rate this year, 2.1% going back to last year. I think it's enough for me to think, all right, if these guys are going to get it done today, it's going to be hit after hit after hit. I think it's less likely that they're just smacking the ball out of the park in this particular spot.
Yeah, and I just to add on to that, because that was one of the interesting things, because Alex, gave us all of our contributors some pointers before the season on stats to look for, what we should be referencing, what he likes us to mention and talk about, and things that you don't want to hang your hat on. And he said, you guys aren't going to believe this, but batting average actually has some predictive value. Who would have thought? He's back tested it. So sort of my old man, having been doing fantasy baseball for 30 seasons now, what I think is happening is the good players have a higher batting average, but overall the league batting average not as great as it once was, as everybody's going for power at this point, and there are more strikeouts and there are more fresh arms. So I think that's more of the correlation. Yes, batting average is somewhat empty because it doesn't tell the whole story. Were they a bunch of singles? Was it Wade Boggs? Do you guys even remember Wade Boggs? I don't know. Was it?
How would you not? He was in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Wade Boggs beer thing. So I feel like that probably gave him another shelf life.
There we go. But just know it means guys are on base. and that is helpful. I mean, yeah, you got OBP and that other stuff, but it was interesting for him to point that out. And he even said, "Yeah, who knew?" But I've dug into this, and it seems to be indicative of something.
Yeah, it's funny because he actually, the way he said it was like, yeah, like who would have guessed that the guys getting hits would actually matter? But like, it's funny because you have all the other advanced analytics that kind of strip things out, but ultimately you just need guys who get hits. And there is a predictiveness to batting average, even though you're, as Emac said, you have to consider all the other factors that go into it. And then adjust accordingly. And I do think Glenn Sparkman gives up a lot of hits, gives up 9.6 hits per nine on the year, 10.3 hits per nine going back to last year. So, I mean, you could see these guys just have a lot of singles, doubles, triples, and that's the way you can get value as a stack without one guy as a whole kind of taking it. But we'll find out, I guess. We can test the theory today, Emac.
We will find out.
Let's go on to the next game. We'll cover this real fast, and then we'll do home run picks as we always do at the halfway point of the show. It's a neck and neck race between me and Emac, so it'll be a good one to go with today. But let's go to this Cardinals game versus the Mets. Cardinals at the Mets. The Cardinals are getting 4.1 implied runs in their favor. Mets getting 4.9 implied runs in theirs. Michael Wacha going to have some ownership on him. Comes up a decent amount in our projections because of a reasonable price and a not bad projection. And the Mets do strike out a good amount versus right-handed pitching. While Noah Syndergaard on the other side, I feel like he seems safe today. He's going against the Cardinals team, doesn't strike out a lot, but also Cardinals team is isn't likely, I guess, to give up a lot of production or generate a lot of production against him. Syndergaard's had a lot of issues recently. I didn't get a ton of Syndergaard. I think I'm with the field. Actually, I might be a little bit under the field overall. Just barely, though. I don't mind Syndergaard, though, and I do think he has a decent floor and a decent ceiling. I think Michael Wacha is a guy who scares me, much like Tanner Roark when he was going to be a little bit higher owned earlier today. I kind of was like, all right, I can do 10% Wacha. I really don't want more than that. So that's where I stand hitting-wise. I have a little bit of Cardinals just because of the ownership on Syndergaard, but I'm not crazy about it. Emac, what are you getting?
I think I'm fine. So I've just got I think this is our most up-to-date ownership. We're getting Syndergaard and Bueller at 28 on DK. Is that the most current one?
Let me double check. I have Syndergaard at 33% is the most recent one I have on my sheet. Now he's he's down to 28%. So
okay.
Yeah.
So, and I just wanted to make sure this had flowed all the way through into FC Pro, which is the add-on there for Fantasy Cruncher, which is very, very helpful because it automatically feeds over the Awesemo ownership updates when they are made. Now, it takes a minute or two usually, but it's pretty quick. Sometimes you do have to refresh your Fantasy Cruncher instance to pull it in, especially if you've been doing a lot of crunches and stuff. It does have a tendency to, I don't know the technical terms, so let's just make them up. It tends to hold information in your
caching
in your browser cache, right? And this is what even Dave Fantasy Cruncher says. He goes, 90% of the problems that people email in, it's like you don't even have to clear your cache, just refresh your browser instance or open a new browser, not a new tab, but a new browser instance. And he goes, it'll clear itself out. But he said it's one of the things because there's so many moving parts of data. It tends to, the computer tries to hold on.
As somebody who's like run a site before, we've experienced with our site at Awesemo.com too, with the WordPress inquiries and all that. So this is a little tech talk for you guys. But in general, like when you're running that many database inquiries at once, as Fantasy Cruncher is, if the site's not caching stuff, it's going to crash instantly, no matter how much of a powered server you have. So yeah, you got to cache some stuff, and that means you got to be mindful as a player just to give yourself a hard refresh every now and then.
Right. So so I'm okay, and I said kind of go 20 with Syndergaard, 20 with Bueller. We're gonna get the Herman Marquez.
Sorry, real fast. NBA trade. Anthony Davis is gone.
Wait, what?
Apparently, Anthony Davis going for Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Hart.
And picks, I'm sure.
I'm sure there are picks involved. Oh, the number 4 overall pick this year and 2 others.
God, I wanted to see him and Zion play together.
Yeah, he wasn't in on it. I think that was a tough sell. I appreciate them trying, but you got to take the pick, and the Lakers were going to win that, I guess, regardless.
All right. I see someone. Yeah, we'll hit all the pitchers here once we get through all the games. We'll recap it because I'm talking quickly, but I'm doing that because I know we're going to get to questions here, and then I'll want to start crunching my lineup so selfishly. But again, this is the third time I've talked about the slate, and I've written an article about it. So I'm good. We're going to be quick here and hit the highlights. So back to which one were we on?
Back to the Cardinals and Mets game. Yeah. What do you have in terms of pitching and hitting?
Yeah. So I'm going. It looks like I'm going to go 20% on most of my pitchers, including Wacha. So just here's where I'm setting it now, and then I'll see what happens when I start to crunch. Syndergaard, Bueller, Wacha, Odorizzi, Lopez, Montas, and he might get bumped up. Minor, I'm going with 10%. I had him at 20, but I'm going to go back to 10. So I'm going to see what happens there. I'm going to give Sparkman a chance here to come in at 25. I'm giving, they added him. Nestor Cortez, I'm giving him a chance to come in at 25 just because I want that cheap stuff. I am going to put his projection at 12. Now on DK. Now what I'm doing there is I've capped it. I don't want more than 25%. If I'm not getting 25%, I may back it off a little bit. I would like at least 15%. So sometimes what I will do to make sure I get that in my crunches is I will goose somebody's projection pretty good so I know I'm getting them, but I'll cap them a hard cap around 10 or maybe 15% because that's all I really want within my couple hundred lineups that I'm going to build.
Yep, I think that's fair to me. And we are at the halfway point, so let's do dong picks, and we'll circle back on all the items as we go. We are going game by game, so we're trying to make sure we hit on everything. But of course, use that promo code live before lock on Awesemo.com right now. Use that code will get you half off your first month or week of any Awesemo Plus membership. And that is, of course, our brand spanking new premium membership that includes all the ownership projections, the rankings, regular projections. You just plug right into Fantasy Cruncher, the deep dive column every day, the top stacks tool, the lineup builder. Again, a million different things that'll help you make better MLB DFS lineups every single day. So go check that out right now. Use that promo code live before lock. EMAC, so you were misinformed, or I might have misinformed you in the process, but we are tied still for both total dongs, and you still have one more correct pick than me because I have one double dong on the year, and you have no double dongs. You are a single dong man. You don't like the doubling up of your dongs, but go ahead, EMAC, either a single or a double or even a triple. Follow your heart. I'll let you go first.
All right, so I've got it right now. Chris with the K Davis in Oakland.
Okay, Chris Davis.
I would have taken Matt Adams, who did homer today, but... And I'm not
Too late for that, buddy.
I'm not taking Vogelbach again, just because I respect Montas enough. But I'm going with Chris with the K Davis.
I don't want to bust your balls too much, EMAC, but you're on quite the cold streak. Just want to start out in the universe. I'm looking at it now, right in front of my eyes.
Is it up to 14? Is it? It's got to be double-digit days at this point, right?
It is 12 total picks you have made that are on the record that have O's next to them. So that is in a row. So yeah. It's
which was a shame because Jake and I forgot last Saturday to do them, and Dozier got. I mean, literally like 5 of the guys we really liked all got home runs. It's like, oh, we would have picked them, and we remembered after the show. He's like, we could put them in chat real quick. I'm like, no, they got to be on the show. They have to be on the show. To be fair,
I respect you sticking to the rules that we have, EMAC. It's much like the John Wick movies. We have a rule amongst our assassins that are the hosts of our shows. And you got to do it on the show at the halfway point or they don't count. Right. I'm going to go Cody Bellinger for mine, by the way.
Okay, nice. And there's the great example. He went, he didn't get one. He got one, I think 2 nights ago.
Yeah, he had a double dong 2 days ago.
And it had been, I believe, since May 25th or 21st since he had one. So he was on a streak almost as bad as mine. And he's got 21 home runs on the year. So just saying, I still have a chance, right?
It's baseball. You get hot, you get cold. That's what it is. So yeah, you're right. You're still in the lead. I have no issue with it. Though Sean V, your boy, shitting on you in the YouTube chat for your pick of Chris Davis.
Chris Davis, double home run night tonight. Book it. Mark it down.
That's so mean. You bought a shirt with his name on it. How could he?
Hell, my wife made it.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was how it got there.
A little nifty, I don't forget what it's called, but there's these things called crickets or whatever that you can design something like a CAD program, but for t-shirts, and then it does all the cutting out of it. And then she was doing iron-on transfers, but there was a big box that came from China yesterday. She has now bought a heat press because she didn't like what it was doing. So she does a lot of these fun t-shirts to commemorate the various races her and all of her friends are doing for their half marathon quests. So it's been a lot of fun doing it because you can get the cheap t-shirts for $7 or $8, and then you just make them say whatever you want, even if you only wear them a few times. It'll be good. But I'm going to be wearing that Sean V shirt tomorrow with one Josh Engelman.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I think it's a good move and supportive of Sean V. So Sean V should support back. I don't agree with this take. I'm the most Sean V loyalist we have, but I feel like EMAC deserves a little courtesy from him. But those are the picks.
Sean, right there, buddy. The heart. There you go.
there. See, it's kindness. That's all we ask for out of everybody. Let's go into the next game. We got Philly and Atlanta. Philly getting 4.8 implied runs for them. Atlanta also getting 4.8 implied runs for them. Looks like not a ton of ownership. Definitely no ownership on Sean Newcomb. Sean Newcomb going to be pretty much unowned today. It looks like under 1% ownership on DraftKings and Not much more anywhere else. Aaron Nola going to have a little bit of ownership on him, and I think it's not a bad spot for Nola. He's been getting strikeouts again, still has a lot of other flaws, getting up a ton of hits, giving up some walks as well, giving up some home runs. So that stuff's not great, but the strikeouts have been there for him. And he's going to get some easy strikeouts today with Newcomb in the lineup, who does strike out at a 61% clip. I didn't get here. I thought Nola was a bit interesting at his price. I think I might have some one-off Phillies just because Newcomb hasn't been great on the year, but not guys I'm super interested in. I normally like Atlanta at home. I've been playing them a lot. They've done a lot of good things for me this week in particular, but I didn't quite get here. You get anything in this game, Emac?
Surprisingly, no. I've set both pitchers at 10%. Well, I really don't expect to get much more than 5-ish on them. But again, because I'm capping a lot of these other guys, it'll kind of diffuse my portfolio, if you will, of what I'm going for here. So I'm willing to mix and match pitchers tonight, but focus in on a handful of games, being the Minnesota side, the Rockies side, and then we'll get to Oakland. But those are the three teams I'm really interested in targeting. So 2 expensive stacks, 1 relatively inexpensive, and then mixing and matching pitchers is the way I'm approaching this one.
Yep, I think that's about right for me.
So
people in
conversely, no real hitter standing out for me in this game either. And just for those that didn't watch the earlier show, Adam more or less said the same thing. He's like, I don't really want the pitchers, but I don't want the hitters either in this one. So,
yeah, as Adam always says, it's both to the point, but also eloquent at the same time. That's generally his MO. Yeah, I have a little bit of Segura just because I think price-wise, he works 4,100 hitting leadoff, and Newcomb has been giving up okay production on the year, 9.2 hits per 9. Not striking guys out terribly well so far this year with 7.5 Ks per 9. And Segura doesn't strike out, so maybe he can get something going. It was my hope there. I also got Real Muto in a couple of crunches because his price is also pretty cheap. And getting lefty-righty matchup too, which won't hurt. But yeah, I agree. Not terribly excited here. The team totals don't seem bad, and it is a positive park with some warm weather and some known humidity down there. So I wouldn't hate I guess not even low owned because Philly's going to have ownership. So I wouldn't hate stacks. I just didn't get there personally. Let's go on to San Diego and Colorado. This one is a big one, obviously, because Colorado is Colorado, and Colorado as a team also has the highest team total on the slate with 6.3 implied runs going against Eric Lauer. On the other side, Herman Marquez going against San Diego, 4.7 implied runs for them. I actually like Marquez a decent amount. I still have a little bit of San Diego, but after being very heavy on San Diego the last 2 days, I am now getting off the train. I still have a good amount of Colorado. I have a ton of Trevor Story, a lot of Nolan Arenado, a lot of full stacks, a lot of mini stacks. Got a lot of Ryan McMahon now that Brendan Rodgers is out of that lineup. What about you, Emac? Where do you get in this game?
I'm actually setting Marquez at 40% on DK, and I think that's a little bit aggressive, but price per dollar. How about point per dollar? That would be a better way of measuring it. I think he comes in very nicely. He's facing, let's see, how many lefties ended up in said lineup. He is going to, they are putting out 4 out there, but Greg Garcia, yeah. Eric Hosmer, adequate. Josh Naylor, one of their better guys that hasn't really done anything yet. And then Austin Allen, yeah. So I'm not really worried about what Marquez is doing. Adam pointed this out, and this isn't free today, but I'll throw it out there for Adam. He says he thought that there would be more righties in the lineup. He thought there would be 7. There are 2 more lefties than he was expecting, but the catcher, I'm not really going to worry about him, and I'm not really going to worry about Greg Garcia either, who's known for his glove and has been ever since he was St. Louis Cardinals, I think is where he came from. So he was saying that that Marquez has struck out 33% of righties. He's only struck out 21% of lefties. However, I think the popularity is just not going to be there. I think this is the rare opportunity that we have where we can use a pitcher to actually leverage against some hitters here, that people are going to be looking at last night's gazillion runs and say, I want some of that. And I think we might catch some people off guard. Now, what am I hoping for? I will be disappointed with anything less than a quality start from Marquez. So I will be disappointed with that. So that's probably about 15 points. Now, he does have the potential to get 8, 9, maybe even 10 strikeouts, even with the lefties in this lineup. He's going to be facing the hitter, and we know that his pitching repertoire does work well at altitude in Coors Field. So for me, that's kind of where I'm making one of my stands tonight, is I'm going with him. So we'll know at about, is that an 8-10 game tonight? It was 8:40 last night, but 8:10 tonight. So we'll find out around 9 o'clock how your old pal's doing. But that's the route I'm going to take, and I feel comfortable with it. Now he's 42 on Yahoo, becomes a little bit more not difficult, but you're not quite getting the comparable savings that you are for the 81 plus the strikeout upside. Which scores a little better on DK than it does on Yahoo. So I'm a little more tepid on him there, but I do have him in ideally when I go back and make my lineup. So probably make 3 of my 10.
Yeah, not a stellar projection for Marquez currently, but I agree. I like him here. I think the lefties that are in the lineup, as Emac mentioned, there are some struggles for Marquez versus lefties, the 1.4 whip and a 9.7 hits per 9 number allowed, as well as a 3.4% home run rate. But with righties, he's only given up a 0.99 whip, 11.8 Ks per 9 versus righties. The thing for San Diego, the lefties in the lineup today aren't that great. I think the only one I would really be concerned about is Eric Hosmer. And even then, like Greg Garcia hitting leadoff, maybe he could slap some around, but I don't think he's good. He doesn't strike out a lot, so that sucks, but he's still not good.
But his .083 isolated power against righties in his last 300 at-bats kind of tell the story there.
Exactly.
But looking at the guys who K, so Renfroe, the righty, K's at 30%. Myers, K's at 32%. Naylor, just 50 at-bats. He's a lefty. He K's at 30%. So there's some action there. You got the pitcher as well. And then everybody else is, outside of Ian Kinsler, is in that 18 to 20% range of the guys I didn't mention specifically. So I think there's upside here for Marquez, and at the current popularity of 17%, I want to double that. So
yeah, I don't know that I'm at double, but I am more than the field as well, and I support this. Yeah, Austin Allen, another lefty in that lineup, also not good. A 66 WRC plus in a limited sample size and not generating much power either. So really, I think the lefties there aren't guys to worry about, and that is Marquez's flaw. So I'm willing to go to him today and hope he gets the strikeouts going against the Padres team with a 26% aggregate K rate. And Eric Lauer, too, is going to offer up some really easy strikeouts. Obviously, a pitcher is always going to be good, but he strikes out 51% of the time with a negative 60 WRC plus and 40 at-bats versus a righty. So that's not good for Eric Lauer.
I've never looked at pitchers. I never knew WRC plus would go negative either.
Oh, there have been so many guys. That's one of my favorite things to see whenever there's a hitter who really sucks. And then I ask like either Josh or Jake or you on one of these shows, like, what do you think his numbers are at around the year? And it's usually like they think, oh, I don't know, like a 20 WRC plus. Whenever it's negative, it's always funny to me. It's just like, how do you generate negative runs? Are you running backwards? You just throw the bat in the air like Mary Tyler Moore?
Wow, that's I'm gonna have to recalibrate my thinking. Now, of course, we don't have to worry about what pitchers are doing, and we usually consider them outs anyway. And even the best pitchers are lucky to hit 200 on the season. But wow, who's the guy? Carlos? Who's the old pitcher for the Cubs? Carlos Zambrano.
Oh yeah,
he would hit home run. He would get 3 to 6 home runs a year. That's impressive considering he plays in 30 games. You know.
Well, you know who kind of rakes on the other side is Marquez. Marquez is a 368 batting average, on base 368. So he's not drawing walks, so suboptimal there. And a 100 WRC plus for Marquez. So good for him. He's average.
Wow. There you go. Yeah. Sorry, Eric Lauer. Not your night tonight.
No, not your night. And on the other side, Eric Lauer going against Colorado. Emac, anybody here that you particularly love or hate, or are you just gonna do Colorado stacks and hope for the best?
I'm paying. Let me get back to where the lineup. I'm assuming. Yeah. So I gotta go rework some stuff after the show because on Yahoo I put in a lot of Mark Reynolds. I think he was 9. My guess was if Story didn't play, somehow he would end up in the lineup. But so Story and Arenado are the top 2. I'm good with Desmond tonight. He's a guy I hadn't realized that his power against lefties had actually crept up higher than what I had expected. I was still considering him, sort of as the 2020 guy that he was when he played for the Nationals and generally hit righties a little bit better. But his over his last 280 at bats, his isolated power is 253. So yeah. That has now that he's got 3 years now in Coors Field, that's helping him out more than when he was in Nationals Park a lot. But that's something I've now got back in my mind that I do like to play him, and I don't mind that he's an outfielder. Before I was always sad when he's no longer shortstop eligible. Well, you know what, things change. But he's someone I like, and he's 20 on Yahoo, which is kind of helpful because if you are putting in Story, Arenado, Dickerson. Or probably not Dickerson, Blackman and Desmond, you really have to go with $7 hitters at your other spots if you're trying to get two adequate $40 pitchers. So it's a squeeze. It's a boom or bust lineup, but I don't know how many people are going to be willing to do that. They may dip down for some of those cheaper pitchers, but your mileage may vary when we're talking Waka, when we're talking Cortez, who's probably going to go about 60 pitches, when you're talking Sparkman, who will go 80 pitches but doesn't really have the strikeout upside to offset that, and you're going to need some clean innings if possible. So it'll be an interesting exercise this evening.
Yep, I would agree. And also, I've said this a couple times. I think at this point, with the week he's had, people probably aren't thinking it, but don't sleep on Charlie Blackmon and lefty-lefty matchups. I mentioned that in my Four Corners video on Thursday, the short form video that I do every day, or every weekday rather. And Blackmon on Thursday ended up having a double dong in a lefty-lefty matchup, and a similar spot here where his price is still pretty high, but his ownership is less than both Story and Arenado. And Lauer's not good versus lefties either. Like, he's actually comparably bad, but maybe slightly worse versus lefties because he gives up slightly less hard contact, but strikes guys out left on the left side of the plate. So I wouldn't sleep on Blackmon. I wouldn't sleep on guys like Murphy or Dahl either. I just, and McMahon as well, who actually hits lefties better than he does righties by a significant amount. He's got a 135 WRC plus versus lefties, and I don't have his righty numbers in front of me, but they are bad relative to that. So, don't be afraid to stack it up a variety of ways, and don't fear the lefty-lefty matchups in this lineup would be the one caveat I would give people.
All right, here's the update on Cincy. It looks like they're going to, and I haven't seen any tweets and I haven't looked at any of our favorite weather people. This is just me looking at weather in motion. So it looks like the storms or the rain is not going to start out in Cincinnati like it was 25 30 minutes ago and for most of the day. It looks like those storms should be firing up just east of it. Now, that doesn't mean they won't go early, but if they could start this game, it looks like they might have 2 hours until stuff comes in, and then that gives us what? So start the game here in 20 or 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and they've got 2 hours. So 10 o'clock Eastern time is when it looks like it comes in, and then it's going to rain through the night is what it looks like. Now, some of these are thunderstorms, but we know that those don't always congregate over the stadium. So I'm not going to cross them out of my player pool, and I didn't want to run crunches until I did this because, again, Yasiel Puig at 3,500 is just, I'm going to have to keep him out of some lineups at this point on DK just for that price point. But I'm still not going over 10% on either of the pitchers. Which is fine because that's kind of with what I'm doing today as well anyway. So
right. Yeah, and some people in the chat saying one of the preferred DFS weathermen whose name rhymes with Mevin Toth is saying that apparently don't fade that game is what Aaron Warnholm is saying in the chat. So
it rhymes with what?
Mevin Toth. That's an old shtick we've done on the channels. Yeah, rhyming competitor names with things. So Moto Blinders and Mevin Toth would be.
I've done about 100 shows with Mevin Toth, so I do believe I actually still am in contact with him. So I like
you
him.
You can say his name then. I wouldn't say because I don't know him personally. Like I have no problem saying just Jonathan Bales. I know him personally. He's a good guy. He works at a competitor, founded a competitor, but.
Kevin Raw, this Diet Pepsi's for you.
Let's go through the last 2 games fast because people want to talk more about pitching. We'll circle back on those. But Seattle going into Oakland here. Seattle getting 3.5 implied runs in their favor. Oakland getting 5.5 implied runs for them. Wade LeBlanc, the projected long reliever behind what's-his-face, who I'm not playing anyway, and you shouldn't be playing either. Frankie Montas on the other side. Don't hate Frankie Montas here because the strikeouts for the Mariners versus right-hand pitching, I think that could be something worthwhile for him. Montas's numbers to me don't make a ton of sense. I don't think it's totally sustainable, but at his price, which is a little bit cheaper than some of the other high-priced guys, but he has shown the upside. He's had 10 strikeout plus upside this year. I don't hate Montas. I know you love Seattle. I'm sorry, EMAC, but I don't hate Montas today. And for Oakland, same thing as you. I like the power hitters here. I like the value that the power hitters present, but Oakland's Coliseum is going to give up less home run production overall and less run production. So that kind of is a deal breaker for me in some respects. Not enough where I want to have mini stacks, but it does take me off of full stacks for the most part. What are you doing here, EMAC?
So it's kind of funny. I like, and let's get back to the popularity page here. We've got Montas coming in at 9%. I'm willing to go 20, and I hope I get 20. Mariners a little bit dinged up. No more Jay Bruce, and some of their youngsters just they got to figure stuff out. Did Shed Long end up making it in the lineup? Let's go.
No, he's not. It's Mac Williamson and Dylan Moore at the bottom.
All right. Mac Williamson basically claimed off waivers, barely could crack the lineup in San Francisco for their watered-down versions the last 2 years. Dylan Moore, not overly exciting. J.P. Crawford, a lot to learn still. Some speed on the base pass, can get on base, but I'm not seeing extra base hits from him. So really we're worried about Vogelbach, Omar Narvaez, by the way, batting fifth, and I want to say he's 7 or 8 on Yahoo, so definitely check him out there. But Malik Smith, no power. Domingo Santana got off on a huge tear at the beginning of the season where he had like as many hits as he did RBIs. He's cooled off since then. The whole Mariners team has cooled off. So I'm okay with Montas even at 9,900 on DraftKings, and I want to say I think he's 42 on Yahoo. So he's kind of right there around the Herman Marquez range. So I'm fine with going with those guys, but it's really the Oakland hitters for me. DK Chris Davis at 4,000. I mean, you put him and Puig in your lineup, and that's how you can facilitate getting Blackman, Story, Arenado, and you either go Blackman or Desmond in that case. But that's kind of going to be, I'm guessing, a more common build. So then if you're trying to differentiate those lineups, that's where you don't put in Syndergaard and you go with one of these other guys, and that just makes it different enough that if Syndergaard doesn't really do well and your guy does better than him, that's your leg up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those guys are good value guys, as Emac mentioned, both Chris Davis and Yasiel Puig in that Cincinnati game. Both guys are going to be pretty owned. Both guys over 20% on DK, but that is the tournament play you can make there and hope they have power. And a lot of the guys on the shows, we talk about it in pretty much every piece of content we do here at Osmo. Don't worry about the chalk plays if you actually believe in them and you think they have value. And I think Chris Davis is one of those guys, and Puig as well. I believe a little bit less in Puig because I think he's just not great overall in that spot. But Chris Davis, ton of power. It's a good spot for him that kind of fits well. And I'll just go back to Seattle really fast. So Montas does struggle versus lefties. So if you're thinking he's a sure thing, there's a reason he's only going to be 10% owned today at that price. He's gotten strikeouts on the year, but going back to last season, he's also just got 10 point, and that means the entire time rolling back from now through last season, to be clear, 10.6 hits per nine to lefties, 1.5 whip versus lefties, 0.34 BABIP, so maybe a bit lucky, but also giving up 47% hard contact to lefties. So for guys like, as Emac mentioned, like Narvaez, like Vogelbach, those are guys who can smack the ball around. Vogelbach in particular as a lefty. I think the spot, though, to me overall, I feel like Montas is going to get strikeouts. I think Vogelbach's a decent probability to get a home run here, but it hopefully will be one of those one-run home runs that don't really hurt. And I think there's a risk and reward here for Montas, and I think he has strikeout upside and value, but he's going to give up runs. I would be surprised if he didn't give up runs.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, let's go through this Cubs game and Dodgers game real fast, and we'll circle back to all the pitchers you guys want to talk about. But let's talk about the Cubs here. Get a 3.3 implied run total for them going against Walker Buehler. I believe that's going to be the lowest on today's slate. That is indeed. And also on the other side, we have the Dodgers going against Yu Darvish. Yu getting a ton of strikeouts. We talked about him on a bunch of live before lock shows. He's going to jump off the page. He's getting 10.4 Ks per nine. They're also giving up a ton of home run production, walking guys, getting guys on base, and then giving up the home run production. Not ideal for Yu. And going against the Dodgers lineup, who has a lot of power versus right-hand pitching, and also loading up on lefties, who Yu does struggle against. He strikes them out less, and he also gives up more hits, and it has a worse xFIP, a 5.6 xFIP, 9.6 Ks per nine, or hits per nine versus lefties, and only 8.8 Ks per nine, whereas righties giving up a 4.7 xFIP, 6.5 hits per nine, and 12 strikeouts per nine versus righties. The lefties for the Dodgers, Emac, I am in love with today. I have a ton of them. I have a very little bit of Buehler. I don't know that the Dodgers should be full stacked, but I'm full stacking them. I'm mini stacking them. I'm one-offing them. And Bellinger is my guy overall. But Muncy, Peterson, Verdugo even, I don't mind. Lots of ways you can go here. What are you doing here, Emac?
Verdugo's nicely priced on Yahoo, so I think he's someone that you can consider, especially now that we don't have Rami Altapia in the lineup. I like a Dodgers stack. I think it's going to be all or nothing with Darvish. Now, one of the big issues he has is the walks that come along with those strikeouts. And he is susceptible to lefties. The Dodgers are going to put out a bunch of them. I did try to make I did some early slate or all-day slate stacking where I went with the Dodgers but they're expensive. I mean, they're almost Coors Field expensive when you start looking at Muncy, Bellinger, Peterson, etc. So we'll see what I end up doing on the late slate because I'm not going to get to updating those lineups. Or when I say late slate, I'm rolling with Nicky Lopez and everybody else in the late games for my last 5 lineups there. So I suspect one will definitely be a Dodger stack. I already have one Dodger stack. I've got one Twin stack. I've got one athletic stack of the 5 I've made, and I think the other 2 are leaning heavily on Coors Field, the 4 key guys that I mentioned, where I was hunting for those $7 guys. So that's my thought there. Walker Buehler is my pitcher on my one of my Yahoo Dodger stacks. The thought being, if his batters are going off, he should at least be in line for the win, and it's an okay matchup for him against the Cubs. Now the Cubs are still terrifying, but park downgrade for them. And if you go back and look with Walker Buehler, one of the things he has done, and I forget what it is, but it's an ungodly K per walk rate over his last 6 starts, maybe 5 starts. I forget what that is, but it's one of those things where you're like, if you haven't been paying attention, you're like, damn, that's really gotten good and is really up there. Let me just call something up here. I want to see his game log as well. The thing we always worry about with Dave Roberts is, what is he going to do with his pitchers? He does have a propensity to get cute with the pinch hitting. So in his last 2 games, he has 20 strikeouts and 1 walk. If we extend that, he has, in his last 10 games, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 walks. That's pretty impressive, and eyeballing it, probably 60 or so strikeouts. So that's nice, because it means you don't have base runners on if you make a mistake, and you are getting the strikeouts. Now you're paying top dollar for him, and that's the whole question mark. But he's in the conversation of who are the pitchers we trust tonight. Is it Syndergaard at the price point? Maybe. Is it Walker Buehler? Perhaps, but not the easiest matchup. Is it Jake Odorizzi? Well, he's like the most expensive guy on most sites. And while we have about a season, last season plus this season, as a bit of a track record from when he's changed his pitch mix from the Tampa Bay days, do you really want to pay that much for Jake Odorizzi? I don't know. So this is where you get the trepidation. So that's how I've gotten full circle back to Montas. So let's quickly let's talk the pitchers here, since I've kind of started doing that. For me, the most guy I'm trying to get the most of is going to be Marquez. I'm trying to get 40%. I'm rolling 20 with basically those other guys that I have mentioned. 10% of Minor, 10% of Roark, 10% of Darvish. I don't care what I get for Nola and Newcomb. I don't think I'll get much, but they'll be 10% or less. So I'm going to start running my crunches now and see what happens there from that standpoint.
So yeah, I'm for my top exposed pitcher today is going to be Syndergaard. Right behind him is going to be Marquez. A little bit behind those guys are going to be Montas, and then coming behind him is going to be Buehler. And then I have the cheap guys. I do have some Roark. I do have some of Cortez for the Yankees. I have a little bit of Waka. I have a little bit more Roark than Waka, but still going to be under the field on both those guys, because I quite frankly just don't trust either of them, even though they do have some decent strikeout spots in front of them. Neither guy's one I want to trust. And Roark in particular, even though I have more of him, I definitely have more of him than I would have wanted. He does project well on our site, and I'm willing to go to a little bit of him because the options there, just not great. You at the same price range, I think is okay, especially for me if you're playing a lot of Dodgers. I think having you in lineups without the Dodgers gives me at least some hope of, if they don't get there, maybe I could capture some fantasy value out of the game. So that's where I am. And now I'm looking at all the questions. Pharmacist Yoho on the premium Slack asking EMAC, who'd you go with, Odor or McMahon? Who would be your second baseman?
I would go with Odor, especially now that I'm feeling a little more comfortable with the weather there in Cincinnati.
Man, that's a really close one. Odor 9%, McMahon. What is McMahon at?
I think it's a fair question. I mean, I don't want to live on the difference, but I'm okay with going with Odor against Tanner Roark for the reasons we mentioned earlier.
I do have at least 1 or 2 lineups with Odor. I don't hate Odor. I have more McMahon. I think I would take the guy in Coors and then hope that maybe you're getting something on the production. Yeah. I mean, if you have a stack, I would certainly favor that. Whatever guy you can get into that stack, but yeah, I think I would go McMahon. But that's really close. That's a tough question. So you're making good lineups if it's that tough of a question to answer. EMAC, pitching wise, any of the cheap guys, I guess, which of the cheap guys would you feel the best rostering, knowing that we have kind of these options are going to have some ownership on them across the board? Which one would you want to trust under, let's say, 7K or under 7,500?
I would probably go with Ronaldo Lopez. Would be at 5K on DK. I'm fine with that. I'm actually going to back that one up. I'm going to put him in at 25%. In my lineups, I've got Sparkman at 25. I've got Cortez at 25, and then I'm missing somebody. I've got Waka at 20. So I'm gonna hit crunch here and see what happens. I'm gonna do some 4-4s real quick here. because we only have 8 minutes left, and I'm hitting panic mode. So.
I would take a shot at Nestor Cortez. I mean, Waka, I think at $300 more. See, this is where you talk yourself into Waka. I think Waka might be my guy just because he's the only guy besides Lopez who is stretched out and going to be pitching a full starting load in that price range. And I'd be willing to go to Waka there because, it's not great. It's not great overall. But I think Waka would be the guy. And Roark overall, I mean, I guess that's a little bit too cheap. I said 7,500. Roark would probably be my guy overall because he does project well from a value perspective with our projections at awesemo.com. 2.2 value on DraftKings, 2.2x rather. I can take that and live with that. And but a really high risk of blowing up. I would say Roark and Waka both are very tournament-y plays where I would not want to play either in cash, even with the ownership on them.
And that's fair. That's fair.
All right, looking at the questions, people saying good luck. You guys have 7 minutes, by the way. It is a 7:10 lock today on the East Coast, so keep that in mind.
Thank God, because I'm going to need it.
But if you have any questions, drop in the YouTube chat, drop in the Slack. We're looking at everything right now. I'm trolling for everything. Hit the like button, too. We don't do enough of a job here pandering for likes, but the likes help us keep the lights on this channel every single day. So please hit that like button, support us, because we are here for you guys on a Saturday. Let's see. People talking about the current slate. Trying to think if there's anything I feel uncomfortable about with my lineups either. Like nothing jumped out to me that I feel like I'm really missing. I feel good about the amount of Montas I have, honestly. Now that total is low, I mean, it's come down a little bit throughout the day. Montas only 10% owned. He's got some risk to him, but I feel good about having above the field on him. And Marquez too, to be honest. I think both those guys actually have Marquez Montas lineups, which are kind of interesting looking right now to me. No Marquez for Spags. No, Michael, I do have Marquez. I like Marquez quite a bit. He is my number 2 on pitcher on the day, right behind Syndergaard. Let's see. Lopez gonna finish negative. Yeah, that's the risk with Ronaldo Lopez. If he has that day-to-day, he's capable of, as Emac mentioned, he's capable of very big upside. But the Yankees do strike out 21% of the time, also generating runs. This particular lineup, they have a 115 WRC plus, 203 ISO. In a positive hitting mark, I would be less inclined to trust Marquez today, or to trust Lopez rather today. So that would be pause for me, and I don't have much Lopez for that reason. Thoughts on Minor? So I didn't get to Minor at all today. I really am not crazy about rostering Minor or going against Minor. He's one of those guys, his price is always a little bit too high where I'd rather go elsewhere. And Montas is my pick today. From a projection basis, I don't mind him. From an ownership basis, I don't mind him. This Reds lineup today, though, is a stronger one versus left-hand pitching. Overall, they get on base at a 340 clip, a 110 WRC plus, a 283 batting average. Oh, actually. So I actually would be interested in the Cincinnati stack. I didn't get there, but I think they could be an interesting, not leveragey because they're higher owned than Minor is, but they could be an interesting stack. Are you getting any Mike Minor, Emac?
No, I have him set for 10% and don't plan on going over that. It looks like on my 4-4s, he came in at 6%.
All right. People asking for thoughts on Odorizzi. Emac gave his thoughts a little bit more at length earlier in the video, but let's go back to that spot. The run total looks good to me. I like that situation. I think as we talked about earlier in the show, Minnesota's park, not quite warm enough yet where I think you're getting a boost to hitting. And it's been a cold park so far on the year in terms of limiting production. So I don't mind Odorizzi, and he's going to be decently low owned. He doesn't project well for us with our projections at awesemo.com, a little bit under 2x value. But he can get there. He's been limiting walks and hits pretty well, under a 1 whip on the year, 0.97 whip, and getting strikeouts at a decent clip. So I don't think it's a perfect spot for him, but I wouldn't really begrudge having him. Did you end up getting any more EMAC in your crunches or for Odorizzi?
No, he is coming in at about 5% for me because I'm trying to get a boatload of Story and Arenado. So that's the casualty.
All right.
Son of a bitch. Sorry. Somehow...
What's wrong?
Oh, somehow this is why you got to clear your cache. I've got a bunch of Bieber appearing in these lineups, which is no bueno. So, hey, we're going to run some 5-0s tonight because that's all I got. And we got 3 minutes. So, hey, there you go. This is why...
somebody asking, let's see.
Being on air... dangerous.
Where did that go? Somebody asked about Real Muto on FanDuel. Oh, Adam Jones on the YouTube chat asking, is Real Muto a good play on FanDuel in regards to value? He actually grades out as one of the top value plays on the day on FanDuel. We have him actually being the 3rd best value in terms of projections. over 4x value at that price. I'm not crazy about Real Muto in the matchup, but I think on a projection level at that price on FanDuel, I don't hate him, but you could play other guys. I mean, you don't have to play a catcher on FanDuel. I would still generally try to go away from catchers if you can. We're going to go to see things like what it's WRC plus Pharmacist Yoho, and all that stuff is on Fangraphs. I pull all my stats from there. Fangraphs and Baseball Savant, and some people use Brooks Baseball. Those would be the three spots you can get most of your stats. But for me personally, I use Fangraphs for everything, and I grab Park Factors from somewhere else. But that is my main site for everything. And you can make different spreadsheets that capture everything. There aren't any other questions. The stuff I have on my sheet that I find to be the most relevant: on base percentage, ISO, K percentage, WRC plus, batting average. Those are something I look at for every team. And then for individual players, I'll look at hard contact. For pitchers, I'll look at swinging strike rate and some other stuff like that. But those are the main ones I think you can focus in on. And the projections do accomplish that well enough. If you have an Osmo Plus membership, projections roll that all into one data point, which is what you're looking for.
All right, because I mucked this up, I am not running 4-4 stacks tonight. I am going very, very heavy now on Coors Field, and I will live with it. I'm running 5 O's and 5 3s, and I'm hitting upload, fingers crossed. I don't have any of these stupid Justin Bieber.
You don't have any Justin Bieber lineups, hopefully. No, that would probably not going to produce a lot of fantasy points, unless you mean the fantasy in terms of his life. Bo Jones in the YouTube chat asking, Yahoo Cash, should I go Syndergaard and Odor or Montas and McNeil? Based on ownership, I would go Syndergaard and Odor.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, people just listing things.
All right. So for fun, I'm going to upload my file here into the Late Swaptimizer. Let's see what I'm running with tonight, because it's not what I wanted, but sometimes that happens. Trevor Story.
It's a lot, guys, by the way. So get your lineups in.
We're at lock. Trevor Story. Guess how many lineups he is on for me?
50?
67%.
So you're over the field than me. I'm at 45% Story. Yeah, it's a lot.
JT Real Muto came in at 51. Chris Davis at 60. Conrad Pinder, those guys are all in the 30 or upper 20s. Dahl, Desmond, Arenado are in the 28 to 30. I'm glad I capped my pitchers. My pitchers are coming in. Marquez 40, Nestor Cortez 25, Syndergaard 22, Buehler 20, Waka 20, Montas 15. I'm okay with that. Nola ended up on 12. I'll live with it. Darvish 10. Roark 10. Minor 10. That's where I had those caps at. Ronaldo Lopez only in at 8%. I would have liked a little bit more, and then 8% Jake Odorizzi. My 4-4s would have pushed me more into some of those cheaper pitchers.
Sounds like the optimizer saved you from yourself in that process with Ronaldo Lopez specifically.
Oh yes, but what? Yeah, whatever.
At least in my stance, I think that's having under 10% Lopez. I feel like that's a good amount of Lopez, even at that price. You're right with the field. That's where you want to be. I wouldn't go crazy on old Ronaldo, but we are locked now. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button. Use that promo code live before lock on Osmo.com now. We still have night slate content that'll be updated. The ownership projections for the night slate will be updated. So anything you want to do, don't tilt enter. Do it now with a thoughtful approach to getting into the night slate and approaching those games and getting some Dodger stacks for that night slate too. I think that's where you're going to want to be. But Emac, what are you doing the rest of the weekend?
Well, I'm watching. We have two of our most frequent commenters are doing a loser leaves Slack matchup. I think it's best of 7. I think they're doing DK and FanDuel, but apparently you have to leave Slack forever if you lose.
Forever under the same username. I feel like people can come back.
Well, I thought a week. Or maybe after
both those guys. It's Dave and Dr. Miles, right?
Dave and Dr. Miles. So they're both successful gamers and they're frequent contributors, but they get on each other's nerves. So
yeah, I can see that. It's sometimes it's like an episode of Tom and Jerry in the premium Slack, but there are a lot of characters in there too. If you enjoy this YouTube channel, I guarantee you'll enjoy the premium Slack that comes with any membership to Osmo.com.
Yeah, most definitely, and of course, promo code live before lock, 50% off any 1 month package that does not include Fantasy Cruncher add-on, but it's a nice deal. And we have weekly packages, so those are always fun to jump in. We just had the major, the U.S. Open, but I know, isn't the Open coming up at some point, the British Open?
Sure, yeah.
No NASCAR.
Sounds about right to me, Mac.
Yeah, no NASCAR or MMA this week. Well, we do have Xfinity stuff going on tomorrow, so there'll be some content for that. MMA will have content for them. We've got ownership projections and point projections for all those sports, and they just put in beta mode the WNBA ownership projections. And I know Alex is literally a huge actual fan of the WNBA. I believe he has tickets.
He has courtside seats to the Sky in Chicago.
For the Chicago Sky. So he legitimately really likes the WNBA. So he plays a lot, and he's working on that. We of course have some free WNBA content from our buddy Seth Hader in the YouTube chat. He will, in every article, guarantee to have at least 1 or 5 jokes about me. So it's worth, even if you're not playing WNBA, see what sort of stories he comes up with me as the punchline, which is always fun. And people forget that when we were at FanVice doing that, I had to edit it, so I had to make those jokes better. So it's all good, but it's always funny to see what he's got in there at my expense. So Sean V, you're not the only one that gets to be the pinata from time to time.
Are you doing any shows tomorrow, Emac?
Yes, we are. Again, we have moved the Sunday show to noon. Or it might be 12:05, but it'll be live before lock / the DFS strategy show. So we'll break things down accordingly for that. We don't always go game by game there, but we definitely cover everything. And of course, we will have the spotlight hitters and stacks article up. That'll be up in about 2 hours. I'm going to go write that one after dinner. And then we'll have the spotlight pitchers article that will be from Josh Engelman. That'll drop around 8 o'clock Sunday morning. So those are in front of the paywall. And again, check it out. Third paragraph on spotlight hitters and stacks will be how you can get into the Yahoo with your initial deposit bonus, getting up to $30 matched in Yahoo Sports rewards points, which are available for immediate use into any contest. So that is a lot of fun, and probably in about 15 minutes, they'll spawn their management fee free tournament for Sunday. So definitely reserve your lineups now.
All right, there you go. So go check that out on Yahoo right now. Check out Emac tomorrow on the channel. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And whether you're a dad or a grad or just a child, I think you got to fit that criteria if you're one of those three. Hit that like button on the way out. The like button helps us all a bunch here. We don't try to bother you guys with that too much, but we're on YouTube. Likes matter a ton. We appreciate all the engagement from you guys, all the support on a Saturday. It really means a lot to have you guys turning out. So thanks for being here. Watch Emac tomorrow. Happy Father's Day to all the dads, and good luck, guys.